The will of the majority will determine the direction of the society, the nation. The number of seditious criminals having gained sworn governmental positions and using those positions not for the purpose of assuring the well-being and welfare of the people, but to gain wealth and perverse personal glories and pleasures by violating their oaths, the law, and human rights, and causing poverty, suffering, and death, is astounding. The professional families, a self-isolated and separate class, clan, fraternity, oligarchy, and elitist empire, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, cousins, husbands, wives, and in-laws to one another, less than 10% of the population, self-titled, self-ranked, and self-certified, elitist, biased, prejudiced, discriminating, exclusive PhDRs, MDs, DDSs, MAs, MSs, AAs, ASs, doctors, lawyers, judges, executives, and administrators, in contradiction to the legitimate, egalitarian, universally representative, and participative democracy, government, and society, have proliferated the myth that they are superior people with superior social and economic rights, have monopolized the representative and executive positions of the government and private institutions, corporations, and all established entities founded, funded, incorporated, licensed, privileged, and contracted by the government, and otherwise dependent upon the government, and taking ever-increasing salaries, benefits, bonuses, profits, and dividends for themselves in unequal and inequitable amounts corresponding to their artificial self-assigned institutional ranks, have become rich and millionaires by causing ever-increasing poverty, suffering, early deaths, desperation, insanity, violence, and crime and riots at home, and wars abroad. The professional families have come to believe that their very presence and slightest effort and simplest word contributes greatly good to the society, exceeding that of the real work of the majority population, whom they call the lower class and lower classes, whereas their contribution collectively, altogether, measurable in numbers, in volume, weight, and momentum, is negative, detrimental, parasitic, and destructive to the society whole, to the legitimate government, and to human lives. The influence of their armed, brutal, violent, seditious, criminal agents and assigns, whom they tell what to do, and whom they reward as they suborn, facilitate, and cover up their capital crimes, and harbor them from justice, is worse. Their lives and their minds are so screwed up that they think that they must cause poverty, suffering, and death in order to survive and to gain their merited superior shares and unconscionable privileges and rights. Having devoted their mentalities to the Mosaic, Sharia, Puritan, Greenspan, Rand, capitalist, professional, Antichrist, philosophy, and protocols of Mammon, which is now called capitalism, which they have chosen as their religion and guiding philosophy, They are entirely ignorant of the natural law of universal relativity, as they create, by their actions of elitism, inequity, exclusion, and human sacrifice, the psychological and physical dynamics within themselves, their families, and others within the range and scope of their psychological and physical intercourse, that bode disaster for themselves, for their families, for the others in their range and scope of psychological and physical intercourse, and for the nation, millions of people. In accordance with the resurgent revival of the uneconomic, antisocial, Mosaic, Sharia, Puritan, Greenspan, Rand, capitalist, professional, antichrist philosophy and protocols of Mammon, taught in universities as the science of economics, which they are not, but the opposite, and taught in fundamentalist synagogues, churches, and mosques as God's word and God's will, blaspheme by Bible, Talmud, Torah, Koran, and Halakha definition, and with the illegal, seditious criminals, specifically forbidden forces and dispatch of organized armed cadres, and the cooperation of lawyers, judges, executives, and administrators, and their armed and unarmed agents and assigns, impose considered and planned exclusion of people from the economic intercourse requisite to life, unemployment, and exploitation of the poverty and desperation, extorting labor cheaply, and free prison slave labor, as they monopolize all markets and commerce, and increase prices, taxes, fines, fees, rents, usury, debt, foreclosures, evictions, repossessions, attachments, seizures, eminent domains, privatizations, buying and selling government facilities and monopolies of services and utilities to each other, incarcerations, criminalizations, demonizations, summary executions, physical brutality, torture, mutilations, seditious criminal violation of the human right to life, institutional ritual human sacrifice, malicious prosecutions, obstruction and perversion of law and of justice, suborning and facilitating and covering up seditious criminal behavior of the police, lawyers, judges, administrators, and executives, harboring seditious capital criminals from justice, and other violations of laws and of human rights. This is not the first recurrence or revival of the antisocial, uneconomic philosophy and trend, and there is simple classic resolution with precedent in these United States of America. The alternative is continuing into the destructive trends of poverty, desperation, violence, crime, riots, and wars, which classically lead to the genocide of the ruling class minorities, those who have come to believe that they are superior people with superior rights, and that they are exempt from normal human behavior. The deadly, progressive, and communicable by persuasion mental disorder of elitism associated with the primitive, savage, antisocial, uneconomic, Mosaic, Sharia, Puritan, Greenspan, Rand, professional, capitalist philosophy of Mammon, capitalism, which is now epidemic in the universities, corporations, synagogues, churches, and mosques, and in the most part confined to that brutal, aggressive, misguided minority, can be overcome by understanding the dynamics of the universal relativity of the matter and energy of the universe, of which we are part and to which we are subject. The exacting, well-established universal relativity prevails over religious myth, superstition, and pseudoscience. When they comprehend that their scientifically observable, chartable, and predictable destiny is now their class and family genocides, c. Extant and projected mortality rates, and that there remains but little and diminishing hope for the innocent among them as they continue to gain wealth and exercise antisocial, uneconomic, and criminal, unconscionable liberties, that may be incentive for them to end their elitist, inequitable behavior and to honor human rights and legitimate government. They cannot void or avoid the dynamics created by causing death and other serious crimes, but they can reduce the violence and suffering and perhaps offer hope to the innocent among them and to the nation. The key to the society of peace, goodwill, universal economy, long and healthy life, and a measure of happiness is honor for human rights. A basic and most effective element of this is to permit full employment, full pay, and full benefits assured by the national treasury, honoring the human right to participate in the economic intercourse requisite to life and a good life. A key element of assuring the continuation of peace, goodwill, universal economy, long and healthy life, and a measure of joy and happiness is to overcome the resistance to the regulation and control of the prices, fees, and exploits of the professionals, corporations, and institutions. The will of the majority will determine the direction of the society, the nation. Let us hope that the collective will of the majority is peace, goodwill, universal economy, long and healthy life, and a measure of joy and happiness. I shall not read to you the Blue Line Fraternity Systemic Cause and Solution.